All right, so the question here is the motorcycle industry dying? We've heard about motorcycle sales, like new manufacturer sales, showroom sales, increasing year after year until 2008. That was the financial crisis. That was when it was hard to get money, hard to get loans, things like that. And ever since 2008, motorcycle industry sales, new bike sales, have declined year over year. There may have been some exceptions. We're talking a lot of years now since 2008, but that was kind of like the catalyst. That was kind of like the tipping point, right? So, my question is it really dying? Yes, there might be less sales year after year from new bike sales, but my question is the saturation, right? How many years now of motorcycles, used bike, quality used bikes are out there now to buy? And I might be a little biased. I'm looking more at sport bikes. I've always been a sport bike fan. I'm a fan of all bikes, but I gravitate towards sport bikes and super bikes. Kind of like this RC51 behind me. This bike here is a 2004, and it's like my dream bike. I absolutely love this bike. Yeah, there's a lot of other dream bikes I can think of, but I love this 2004 RC51, any RC51, right? But it's 2026 right now, and I'm talking about a 2004, right? So that's 22 years ago. So in 2004, a comparable going back 22 years would be in 1982, right? I bought this bike the first time in 2006, right? And I was probably only going back, thinking about the bikes that really interested me, the 93 and up CBR 900RR, but even a lot of those were carbureted bikes. My first bike was a 2000 R6, and that was a carbureted bike. After I had that bike, I was really only looking at fuel injected, right? So in 2006, I'm looking back at, the 98 and up R1 or the 2000 929RR and up. So, is it really that there's less interest in motorcycles now? Is motorcycling dying? Or is it just new sales have decreased to make up for how many good quality used bikes are out there? And I think it's the latter. I think there's just, I can't imagine being, I had a video I just posted the other day of this bike, and I referenced it being an old man bike. A lot of guys in their 50s, 60s, 70s that are buying these RC51s. And I had someone comment that they feel that they're young to the group because they're 21. And that just floored me. A 21-year-old buying an RC51. How old this bike was, compared to their age, right? It's this bike was made before they were born. Like that floors me. Just to think about, if you were 21 right now, what a dream this would be. Like, we always talk about the golden age of sport bikes, and it always feels like we're talking 10 years ago. But imagine being 21 years old right now and just the plethora of sport bikes that you have at your disposal, like how far back you can go, and they're still just absolutely sweet bikes. So I don't think that that motorcycling is dying. I think the manufacturers have had to adjust with just the pure awesome quality of bikes that they've already put out there that are still in the market. You go on Facebook Marketplace and you can just scroll for hours and hours of all the manufacturers and all the just different types of bikes. When I talk about the golden age of sport bikes, you look at it now, and yeah, we do have a wide gap. We have some entry-level bikes that are sweet. You got a Ninja 400 that gets crazy awesome reviews for being a 400. Like, you think back in 2004, what was the comparable? A Ninja 250, and that was just, in my opinion, it was kind of an ugly bike. Underpowered, probably didn't have the suspension that the 400 has. And then the other end of the spectrum, today, think of all the $30,000 sport bikes that they're putting out. The R1M, the V4R, just the RSV4, it's just endless. How many just amazing bikes. And even Ducati, you think of Ducati, and all their special edition bikes. They make so many special edition bikes. We talk about this, like maybe they're not that special because everything seems to be a special edition bike. But think of just all of the options you have, you know, like, I don't know, even like you compare it to like cars, right? So like you think of a Tahoe, think of how many trim levels there are of a Tahoe and how many options and, you know, price points and things like that. And like, we are now there with sport bikes. Like back in the day, it was like, you're going to buy a 929. Well, you had 3 color options and they were for the most part all the same cost. Maybe the Aaron was, you know, a few $100 more, you know, paint scheme wise, but they were all the same suspension, all the same wheels. Now you go, oh, you want a Ducati? Okay. Do you want, you know, manual suspension, electronic suspension? You know, you want, you know, the upgraded wheels, the lighter wheels, you know, it's just, it's amazing. And then of course, then you get into the special edition paint schemes and stuff like that. I just think we are in a golden era of sport bikes or even motorcycling right now. We don't recognize it, right? The good old days are right now. So I just think props to you young guys that are just getting into the sport or into the hobby, because you're lucky. You are very, very lucky. And I'm not trying to bash older bikes. When I say in 2004, you had to go back to 1982, you know, as I had my dream bikes, then you start to expand your interest, right? I've had, you know, CB 750s and, you know, things like that interested me later. But I'm just saying from a purely sport bike, super bike, race replica, that type of industry, I don't think it's dying. I just think we have so many bikes out there. So I don't know, let me know in the comments what you think. I think it's pretty hard to argue with. I think I've got a pretty solid argument here that we're on solid ground here. I think the manufacturers have to adjust. The one thing that I think the manufacturers could be doing better is these e-bikes. You know, my son, he's 13. We've kept him on gas bikes. You know, all his friends have e-bikes, but you go into a motorcycle shop, you don't see e-bikes. And maybe there's some exceptions, but I go into the big retailers, the big motorcycle dealerships, and I'm not seeing a big focus on e-bikes. And I just think, why would you know, I think I read something like 90% of e-bikes are coming out of China, and why Japan or Italy, you know, these manufacturers, why they haven't adjusted. Get these young kids going into motorcycle shops, give them a place to service their bikes. You know, these bikes coming in from China, like what they break and then what do you do? Like I'm not familiar with that, but it makes sense to me that you get those young buyers already coming into the dealerships familiar, you know, with other bikes. They get to start seeing the bigger bikes. They get to sit on them, learn about them, you know, stuff like that. I just think I'd love to see the Japan manufacturers make a decent go at e-bikes. And I'm not even saying I'm a huge fan of e-bikes, right? I don't want to start that debate, but it just seems like if the concern is motorcycling is dying and we need to bridge a gap and bring younger riders into the sport, that would be just, seems like a slam dunk that you would try to get these young kids on their e-bikes, getting into the stores, maybe even a trade-in program, right? You buy an e-bike for $2,000, maybe, you know, a lot of times they have a hard time getting rid of these bikes, right? So instead of going to marketplace, maybe you give them a trade-in of $1,000, you know, and then they can use that money to upgrade, and I don't know, some options. But I just think motorcycling is not dead. We have a strong future ahead of us, and I love everything that's out there. To show a little bit more of my RC51. I mentioned in my last video, I do have a 2019 Ducati V4R coming. It's on its way. It's stuck on a semi using haul bikes. It takes a little bit of time here to get here, but super excited about that. If you've gotten this far in the video, comment V4R below. Let me know what you think about my thoughts on the motorcycle industry. Are we really dying? Or is it just that much more to pick from? So, all right, see you guys. Thanks.